Hello, my name is Prairie Wife from prairiewifeandheels.com, and I am here today with our first ever episode of Prairie Wife Talks About Life, and our special guest is Rachel. Today we are going to be covering, I feel like, pretty much every topic in the universe with you. So this is my new friend Rachel, who I was first introduced to by another friend of mine. Thank you, Sarah. And I feel like we need to just dive in. Tell us 3 things that you want our readers to know.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
No pressure, no pressure.
Yeah, so my name is Rachel Maria Master Giacomo, and I was thinking, there's so much to a name, right? Rachel Maria, you would think that my Catholic parents were naming me this beautiful Marian name, Old Testament biblical Rachel. And then I realized that my dad named me after the 1980s bodybuilder Rachel McLeish.
That is awesome! No pressure, right?
No. Miss Universe or Miss...
Does your mom know that? When
Your name? Yeah. They were total gym rats.
Here I am just named after my grandma. No offense, Grandma Catherine, but...
It's so funny. So I learned that, and then it was totally fitting. He was a really holy dude, of course, but he was a gym rat, which makes sense as to why I married Rich.
Which, by the way, I'm going to interrupt you. There's an empty chair here because we have a special guest coming in the middle of the interview. But anyway, so back to names.
Yeah, so that is probably number 1 of 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm going to keep telling. No pressure.
Okay. Number 2, when I was 23 years old, I had just graduated from Steubenville, Franciscan University of Steubenville, and I was like footloose and fancy free and super, just felt like I had the world at my fingertips, and I was in prayer one summer, and I felt that the Lord, in the silence of my heart, said, "Move to Rome, there you will meet your husband." And so I left. I was like just young and free, and I remember.
This is like the stuff of a Hallmark movie. I'm enthralled. Forget about you guys. This is about what I want to hear her talk about.
I'm not that bold anymore, but back then I really was, and I moved to Rome. It was also Eat, Pray, Love had just come out.
Oh, yeah. I still have not read that book or seen that movie.
I know. I hadn't either. I didn't really know, but I think I said.
And there went half my readership. Boom, gone.
I know. But it was like, this is my own Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
So, I moved to Rome, and 3 months later, we were in a food line at a Thanksgiving banquet, and he knew right away.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't.
Which I love that because it's usually us. Like, I remember calling actually, you know what? I called my mom the night I met the cowboy, and I was like, this drunk cowboy asked me to marry him. So you know what? Maybe that means our marriages will last when they know right away and they have to convince us.
Oh, totally. That's the best way.
Okay, so that's 2 things. You are bold and you went to Rome. What's the next thing?
So Rich and I are foreign missionaries in Uganda, and we work with the South Sudanese refugee population in northern Uganda. We have a real love for orphans and refugees and widows and the people that God loves.
I'm telling you, Hallmark movie. It's going to start right here. Hallmark, are you watching this? I need to take you in it. So, I have notes here because I wanted to make sure I got everything covered in the interview that I wanted to. So I have always been fascinated by that whole call to be missionaries thing. It's just riveted me. So I want to know, tell me about your faith. Was it always there? Is there something your parents did that fostered it, that you knew to listen to that voice that was telling you to go to Rome? And then the second part of that is I want to know some of your role models for you in your faith. And if you forget, you read the questions.
Totally. I was born and raised Catholic. Cradle Catholic.
Bam.
But there was definitely a moment in time in my childhood where my faith became very real to me. And God wasn't just, this idea, but really a person that I met. Jesus was a person, a real person in my life. And I'd say this was around age 10. And I think my parents were huge vessels of the Holy Spirit, mainly because they were
No
just,
pressure. I'm feeling this pressure now.
No, but they were never teachy or preachy.
Mhm.
It wasn't like, force fed or anything.
It was just their life.
It was their life.
Just how you lived your daily life.
Totally. They were in love with God. They were really involved in the Curcio movement, which has like a huge centrality on the person of Jesus. And they just, faith was...
I'm going to be Googling that later. Because
it's totally good. It's like from the 70s. Yeah, you're fine. But I grew up with the Day Dolores and all of this.
Yeah. So it was not. It was everything. It was the lifestyle that you led. It was going to church. It was your parents' example through their actions and everything like that. So then, role models for you. I'm going to say your parents were probably.
They were huge. Yeah, they were definitely huge role models for me. My dad in particular was a very strong role model for me, and he, like I said, he went to Mass daily, and it was never something that I was even really invited into. I mean, I was invited into it, but it was never something that I had to do, but I wanted what he had, and so I just followed him, and I just sought whatever it was that do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely, he, as the leader of your family, led in that way, and you automatically followed, and maybe that's the difference between and you could see it brought him joy, and it's because I think sometimes as a parent we get caught in that do as I say, not as I do, and I'm totally guilty of that, but he was really modeling that for you, which that's why it would be called a role model, right?
Yes.
I just made that literary connection. Yes. So what about, was there anyone else in your life, like a saint or a teacher that you had, or girlfriends that you just really connected with that led you to that? Because let's face it, the whole missionary lifestyle is, especially in this day and age, we are all so attached to our things. There has to be, was there someone in that lifestyle that you really look up to?
Yeah, so again, I was young. I went to Catholic youth camp, and there was a nurse. I had gotten sick at camp, and this nurse, Ann Kurzman, she took me under her wing. She cared for me while I was at camp. I was a young kid, and I was away from home.
Yeah, not feeling good. You wanted your mom.
Right,
yeah.
I did, and she ended up becoming a pen pal. And
how
she,
cool.
throughout probably ages 10 through 13, she wrote me letters, and I wrote back. And every time I got a letter from Lynn, it was like,
aww.
Yeah, it was huge for me as a child, and it was, I think, so good for me to have someone that wasn't my parent, but a mentor or someone who could really model the faith for me.
That's huge. I think that's huge, because I know I teach weekly Sunday school, but also my parents, when I was growing up, they didn't really have a lot of friends or people that they were with, and that's something I always missed. And so for me, I always am having friends over to the house to chat, so they have a connection with my kids, because I think that's so important that we have someone besides our parents that we can look up to and we can talk to. So no pressure for anyone that comes over here for dinner. Consider yourself a role model for my kids. So that would be you.
There you go. Yes.
Watch out. Okay, so it's kind of no connection at all.
But no role models?
Yeah, sorry.
I had
besides Nurse Lynn.
I was like, yeah, Nurse Lynn was awesome. I love Dorothy Day. I love Martin Luther King.
Yes, those are good ones.
Huge Mother Teresa fan.
Yeah.
And some of the ones.
Who doesn't like Mother Teresa? Really?
Right. I know. But right now, I am really learning from just some pretty radical people that are alive currently.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Jeremy Courtney who founded Preemptive Love Coalition.
So those of you that are watching, take notes.
Yes.
Google that guy.
Heidi Baker is the foundress of Iris Global. She's a missionary in Mozambique. And then Shane Claiborne is the founder of The Simple Way. And I'm really passionate about Catholic social teaching and social justice.
Yeah. Well, and it's huge right now. It's a huge issue, not only in the world, but in our country. Right. We're trying to decide, what do we do? And a lot of people that are people of faith are torn, because we're taught to follow Jesus' example and take care of others. But on the other hand, there's some boundaries maybe that need to be drawn, or some lines that it's a complicated issue. But just so you know, readers, if you go to the blog prairiewifeandheels.com, I will have links to all of those people that you talked about, so they can just click and find their work right away. So there is no segue to this question. We're just going to dive right in. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Your life has had trauma in it. Many people turn away from God when they're at these, these moments. Did you ever do that? If you did, why not? If you didn't, has your faith helped you heal?
Yeah, so I'd say the first real experience of trauma in my life was when I was 13 years old, and my dad had a massive heart attack and died while he was working out in the gym. And I was at a movie with friends.
Just being a kid.
Just being a kid. It was a Saturday afternoon. I think the movie was called Superstar. It was in 1999.
That's the girl from SNL.
Yes.
Superstar.
I hate that movie.
I was about to say, I'm sure there's some PTSD associated with that. Okay, I will never do so.
No, it's
No sniffing my armpits around Rachel. We don't want to trigger.
No, it's doing.
Sorry, I'm just gonna take this really sentimental, powerful moment.
You gotta be able to laugh.
Okay, it's trauma. Your dad, who, just from this brief conversation we've had, was a light in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, my dad definitely was super instrumental in my journey of faith and just coming to know Jesus personally as a young child. And when he died, it was like the rug from beneath me was just completely ripped from underneath, And my mom, she was 39, widowed with 4 small children. She was a stay-at-home mom, And
so what did that do to your faith? Like, as your mom's faith, the faith of your family? Did you grow closer? Did you rely on God? Did you pull away?
I was at just this particular moment in my journey of faith where God was really becoming the center of my life. And so when my father died, I clung to God as my father. Mm-hmm. And I think it has to do with right where I was in that moment of my journey, and the Lord just being so good, and I think being a child, I don't know what would have happened if it happened, if my dad died when I was 18.
Yeah.
But at that particular moment,
anger wasn't your first reaction.
Anger was not my first
Which
reaction.
as an adult, that usually is.
Right.
So then I'm going to ask you, you had trauma later on as an adult. Mm-hmm. What about your faith in that situation?
Yes, so I think because...
So what was the trauma? Because not everyone watching knows, and I know they're like, what are they talking about?
Yes, so about a decade ago, I was sexually assaulted in a really horrific way.
I'm so sorry that happened to you right away.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
my first time just saying it, publicly. So,
thank you for trusting us.
Yeah.
Gonna get a little emotional here. There's a reason there's a box of Kleenex.
No, totally. And, I think it's okay that it's taken me 10 years to talk about it. And if I, want to say anything to anyone out there who has been a victim of sexual violence or any kind of violence, you do not have to speak just because it's the thing to do right now with the Me Too movement. You don't have to come forward. You need to honor yourself and come forward and face what happened in a way that really respects your own healing process.
When you're ready.
When you're ready. If the Me Too movement had happened, and I love the Me Too movement, but if it had happened 5 years ago and I felt the pressure to come forward and to say Me Too, I would have ended up in a mental hospital.
Because you weren't ready yet.
I hadn't even accepted that it happened. I hadn't even looked at it. I couldn't use the R word for almost a decade. And I can use it now. But it took me a long time to even just accept that it happened.
And there's still healing. I think that anyone that's had trauma, whether it's sexual trauma or the trauma of losing a loved one or a car accident or a cancer diagnosis, I think in the beginning you're in survival mode is what I call it, because you're just trying to get through it. And then for me personally, all of a sudden out of the blue, I deal with things and I'm going, why am I still upset by this? And I think that the brain is such a fragile thing in the heart that when there's been trauma, it just takes so much time.
It does.
And I love that you are strong enough now to be an advocate for women that aren't ready to talk about it, because I think you made a very poignant statement for where we are now as a culture. There's so many women that are willing to shout their story from the rooftops, which is amazing. But I think that we need to acknowledge that not everyone's there.
Right.
In their process, and that's huge. So has your faith helped you heal this last decade? Has it given you a strength and understanding?
Yes. Without my faith, I would not. Sorry, I'm looking at my husband.
I love that you're looking at your husband right now.
Without my husband.
I wish you guys, I know you guys are like, fill the chair. Don't worry, he's coming. He's coming.
But yeah, without my faith, I would not be alive.
That's
huge.
huge.
Just the absolute truth. And without the love of my husband, I would not be alive. So, I'm not ready to get into it completely.
And I love that you are strong enough to say that. Good for you. You're being an advocate for yourself.
No, thank you. And that's huge, just to be able to accept where you're at in your healing process, and to not force yourself to talk about it or.
Yeah, right. In the oversharing, as we're like sitting here, my blog is all about oversharing. But I agree with you. I talk about it all the time on the blog. A lot of times, the deep emotional stuff I share is a month after it happened to me. You know what I mean? When I came out with having a preventive mastectomy, that was 3 months after we had decided to do it. That I went, because you have to do it when you're ready. So that's huge. And speaking of ready, let's bring your husband over here.
All right.
Would you like to introduce this handsome fella here next to you?
Yes, this is my husband, Rich.
What's up, guys?
Master Giacomo.
I'm the Prairie wife. Made it big time. Made it big time now.
Right? Woo woo! Okay, so I just have to tell you guys, I swear, Hallmark, you need to contact these guys about doing a movie, because their love story is one of missed opportunities, wounds that needed to be healed, and like what probably seemed like to you guys like wrong times and endless waiting. So what has married life been like for you guys after this journey that you had? Like, love it? Or did it take a while to get used to it? How long have you been married? Give them a little taste of what it's like. Yeah.
Go for it.
Sure. So we were married June 20th, 2014. So coming up on 4 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so
I mean,
much.
for me, yeah, like Rachel shared earlier, I knew right away that Rachel was the one who the Lord chose for me to love, to struggle with.
Oh my gosh, you guys, like, when I edit this video, there's gonna be hearts like popping out everywhere. Like, can you feel the love? Like, I love this. Okay, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm a sap.
So that was such a day for the two of us of just victory and freedom, and so yeah.
Because we had a really tough time discerning our vocation. A really tough time.
Yeah.
And actually, what happened to me about a decade ago was the main thing that completely clouded my mind and kind of made me running toward the convent and trying to find an escape. And I had this awesome man who was pursuing me for years, and just
Patience and kindness
That's
personified right there.
a lot of healing and a lot of victory and a lot of just joy and truth.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we went on our honeymoon, and we were ready for children right away. And we wanted to start a family right away, and Rachel was convinced, on our honeymoon that we were pregnant, really convinced.
Right? Yeah.
And we weren't, and I just, when we speak about marriage these 4 years, you know, and an overriding theme, you know, across, if you will, has been the cross of infertility for the two of us.
Which I want to say too, once again, I appreciate your guys' trust in me and in my readers sharing your story, because this is one of the reasons why, besides the missionary and Rachel's amazing message about faith and relying on God through trauma, I think that far too often in that infertility journey, there's so much support and thought about the woman and what she's going with in so many places that you can go to for help and support. I feel like the husbands get left behind. You know, I said it before when I was talking to you guys, when I had my miscarriages, the cowboy was like, you know, there's tons of books for me to read about moving through a miscarriage and blog posts and chat rooms. But for him, he was like, it's going to be okay, you know? So can you talk to me about, I mean, obviously it was heartbreaking. Because you felt so convicted that you wanted to have a family, and you are people of faith, and I think sometimes we get caught in this, if I'm a good person, good things are going to happen, but here's this cross you have to bear. So what was that like? What did you do to try and help support Rachel? Did you ever feel like, you know, he was being ignored in the process? Can you just talk to me a little bit more about that?
Totally. You want to do your perspective first and then me, or what? Or you want me to just fire it? Fire away.
Fire away.
So one of the things that I learned, just practically in a relationship, you know, in marriage, you know, as a man, as a husband, Rachel's not feeling well. Rachel's feeling hurt. Rachel's going through something. I know what to do to make her feel better, or at least I want to. I want to fix the problem right away.
Which is what we love about men, right?
Totally. Something breaks in the house. Okay, I gotta fix it, or at least call somebody who knows how to fix it. You know, the thing with infertility is that it completely robbed me of that entire understanding as a man, because here it is, I don't have any answers for Rachel. Month after month, negative pregnancy test after negative pregnancy test, and I want to give her words of consolation. I want to say maybe the test was wrong. I want to say, you know, maybe God has a plan, you know, or give her some pious rhetoric. And the reality is, what I've learned practically is that simply being with Rachel, you know, at the heart of love is simply togetherness, to suffer with the beloved. That's the best thing that I can do. And the more I try to fix it or try to say something, that's not where it's at.
Rich, thank you for sharing that, because I think that far too often men, first of all, they don't understand that about women, so that's like a perfect point, like you said, and within marriage you kind of need to know that, but also just for being open and honest about your journey with that, because I think oftentimes guys just don't talk and they don't share. Rachel, do you mind talking a little bit about what the infertility was like for you, because there's so many different faces to infertility?
Absolutely, yes. Infertility was excruciating, and it still is. Actually, I'm reminded of, you know, when I lost my father, because infertility is loss, you know. But someone said to me, you will never get over it, you'll only get used to it. And I'm kind of at a point now where I've processed it and I'm getting used to it and finding like deep joy. And it's kind of to the point where I'm like, Lord, I wouldn't have it any other way, which is kind of crazy to even be able to say at this point. But the blessing is in the breaking. Someone by the name of T.D. Jakes said, that which refuses to be broken refuses to be blessed. And I feel...
I'm going to have to think about that one for a while after this.
Right. But I think with the wound of losing my father, and then the experience of sexual assault, and then the experience of infertility, these are my deepest wounds. I'm just being totally real and vulnerable. That's my word for the year, vulnerability.
I feel like you have hit the nail on the head with this. And once again, like, I just have to interrupt and say what an honor it is that both of you are willing to talk about this, because I just truly feel like even if we help one person,
right,
totally,
one person,
absolutely,
this has been worth it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's how we feel as well.
Totally. Just really quick, kind of like to push that further, what Rachel said, the blessing is in the breaking.
Okay.
If we look at the Gospels, every time Jesus starts speaking about himself and about giving himself, there are 4 words that come up in a particular order. He takes, he blesses, he breaks, and then he gives. We can't go to Mass, we can't receive the Eucharist if Jesus doesn't break himself and give us his body and blood. And so we are his body now, and so the same thing goes for us,
Right.
Unless we're broken, we can't be a blessing for anybody, We
Yes.
can't be blessed personally, so.
And so I think for both of us, with our deepest wounds, like I just mentioned, my 3 deepest wounds, I have experienced that in each and every one of them. Being taken, being blessed, being broken, and then being given for others. It's really Eucharistic, and redemptive suffering is just kind of the key to our understanding of all this crap that happens to us.
Well, and I just, the word that just is going over and over in my head right now is hope. Like hope. And I think that in our society today, in our experiences, and just as humans, so often we lose our hope when we
Right.
have things that happen to us.
Totally.
But if you listen to that lesson that you just gave from your own personal experiences, and if we talk to other people, we get that hope. So someone else listening to you talk about your infertility, they can have that hope that their story can be different, will be different.
Absolutely.
And that there's good at the end.
Absolutely.
That there's good at the end. So I want to talk a little bit back to you, Rich, since I have a guy. Woo, we always have a girl. But we have a man here. You were talking, because of course we did prep a little bit for this interview. Yes, this is live and real, but I would never throw these guys under the bus and just throw questions at them. So they were prepared to talk about infertility. And Rich, can you talk about as a man and a masculine man, you had mentioned a little bit about infertility and masculization.
Masculine.
Just take it away.
Totally. No. I guess I want to say this. I feel like the devil is really trying to attack, masculinity in our culture and in our society today. I think that's number one. I don't think anyone would argue that.
As a mom with 3 boys, I hear you.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we are fooled if we think that the devil will not try to attack a man in his masculinity and in his manhood if he's struggling with infertility. The devil often will use failure, weakness, being small to try to dig at a man.
Which those are all emotions men feel when
100%.
their family's struggling with infertility.
100%.
Yeah.
And so early on in the journey, like I said earlier, not knowing what to say. Is something wrong with me, health-wise? We both got checked out, and our infertility is unexplained. Which even makes it like, I wish we had an answer, But who knows?
That's another level of I'm telling you, Hallmark movie. That's another level of because I know everyone watching is rooting for you guys. And as we hear all these different ups and downs and your strength together, so sidetracks though.
No, totally.
So the demasculization, is that the right word finally?
Yeah.
That you felt from the infertility struggle. How did you get past that? What?
Yeah. And really, there's only.
Were you able to help? Was it something you had to do on your own?
Yeah, like I said, feeling attacked, and feeling like, oh my goodness, what's wrong with me? Not feeling like a man,
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And really, the only answer, like usual, is Jesus. Jesus. And turning to Him. I think our society, our culture, there's so many counterfeits for masculinity, for manhood, a businessman, making tons of money, a political figure with tons of power, an athlete, no matter how much muscle mass you have, the intelligence you have, the talents you have, there is no other perfection of the masculine heart than Jesus Christ. And if you look at Him and His life, perfect God, perfect man, true God, true man, His entire masculinity was in the fact that He poured out and He laid down His life. And so the Lord has come to show me, and I'm still learning, but showed me that, my masculinity comes from how well I lay down my life for my family and for my bride. End of story. And that silences the evil one. And that helps me, at least, kind of get through this cross, And a fruit of infertility, that's the thing. Like when you're living for Jesus and you understand that suffering has meaning, that we can go to the cross with Jesus. He brings good out of suffering. And so for us, one of the greatest fruits of our infertility is our hearts being open to foster care and adoption.
Yes.
Can we give them some good news? Is it okay?
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So readers, that was the perfect segue. Which, first of all, we've done lots of blog posts about foster cares, foster family, adoption. Just go to our search engine on prairiewifeandheels.com, and you're going to find tons of amazing stories. And we're not going to dive into your guys's right now. I feel like we totally need to another time. But I just want to give you guys some super good, exciting news. So tell our readers what's going to be happening soon.
22 days. No one's counting.
No one's 22 days, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
What's happening in 22 days?
Our family is welcoming and I can't even say it. I'm so excited. We're adopting a baby girl.
Yay! Your daughter is going to be born.
Yes.
Your daughter is going to be born in 22 days.
Yes.
You can't. I'm
excited.
not excited at all for them.
We're so excited, and this will be our 12th child. We've welcomed a number of at-risk children into our hearts and our home, but we're so thrilled to be having a forever child, and our own daughter is ours forever.
So exciting!
Yeah,
so
we're
exciting.
Thank you.
So I hate to do this. I feel almost bereaved, but we are going to wind up our interview. Do you guys have any last words of wisdom that you would like to say to our readers, watchers, listeners about your journey, your faith, anything at all that you want to share with them? This is your sounding board, your last minute.
I would say, that one of the things that Rachel and I have kind of experienced, in our marriage, only being married 4 years, but and really trying to live in accordance with the will of God, is that to love is to be willing to suffer, to be willing to suffer for the beloved. And I think that is the key to not only a healthy marriage and a healthy relationship with your family and children, but also a key to your relationship with God. If you can humbly say, Lord, crucify my ego, let your will be done, that's ultimately where holiness lies and ultimately where perfect joy is found. So, not there yet. We're nowhere near there.
I know,
yet.
honestly, could you tell that's what was going on in my mind? Is like, I have so much work to do, but it's good work. It's good work, and it will bring good fruit along the way. And I think that's something so important to remember is people that follow the blog and have for the last 4 years, they've seen me unravel and put myself back together again and unravel, and there is good in that journey.
Absolutely.
All along the way. It's
Absolutely.
not always about the end result. Do you have anything that you want to say, Miss Rachel, at all?
Totally. I just appreciate how real you are. You are such a witness of
I wasn't expecting that.
just what it means to be real. And like I said this year, my word is vulnerability. And I see that so beautifully in you.
Aww.
And I think that for your readers and those that follow this blog, just vulnerability and being real. I mean, that is, what was the quote you just came up with? Something about
What's that?
being real. Something about, do you remember? It was like yesterday.
Well, God is more concerned on this side of heaven in helping us to be real and not so much about our performance. You know? God cares more about the singer and not the song. It's about us being real, not the performance. The life on this side of heaven is not so much a stage, but rather a gymnasium, a place where the Lord is taming our soul to get to heaven. But that's what we're talking about.
I feel like hashtag nailed it. And what I'm about to say, which is how I end everything, is going to seem insignificant, but thank you so much. Prairie Wife from prairiewifeandheels.com. Lead a life of grit and grace, sass and style.